Welcome to the Silk Road Maritime Museum walkthrough. My name is Louisa Stewart, CEO of Blue Ninja, and I'm one of the partners working on this incredible project. We're excited to share this new chapter of the Silk Road Virtual Museum with you. When we started building the Silk Road Virtual Museum, we began with two sites, Nanjing in China and Venice in Europe. We selected Nanjing because it was the starting point for the first of the 7 so-called treasure voyages of Admiral Zheng He in the early 15th century. And we chose Venice because it had been the birthplace of the famous explorer Marco Polo. Although we filled in the rest of the continent with land-based trade routes and cultures, the exhibition was, quite literally, anchored at major seaports. In time, we extended the coverage of China back to the 7th century CE, with 2 exhibitions devoted to the Yuan, Lao, and Tang dynasties. And we added an exhibition dedicated to the Mamluks, who governed Egypt and Arabia for much of the 13th to the 15th century CE. In this introduction, we wish to take you through the new maritime sites and the wrecks of some of the ships that connected them. We start off the coast of Japan with a small island called Okinoshima. Passing China, we then visit the pre-colonial culture of the Philippines as a side trip on a shipwreck expedition. We will then visit the Champa culture of Vietnam that was eventually extinguished at the end of the 15th century. The next stop will be the Majapahit Empire, based in Java, or more accurately, its capital city Traulan. We will make 2 visits to Thailand, one to the Kingdom of Ayutthaya from its creation to 1500, and one to the Dvaravati culture of the 9th century, again as a side trip on a shipwreck exhibition. Our next visit to Sri Lanka, the jump-off point for many Buddhist monks heading to Southeast Asia and China, before visiting 2 trading hubs in Iran, Saraf and Hormuz. Our final exhibition is Calicut 1498. It also illustrates why the year 1500 CE is our cutoff point for the Silk Road Virtual Museum. Visitors to Calicut had always described the port as a prosperous trading hub with goods from Africa, Southeast Asia, and China. It was tolerant of different religions, well-run, honest, and efficient. In July 1497, a small fleet led by Vasco da Gama left Portugal in search of a gateway to the Indian Ocean. He arrived in Calicut in August of the following year, full of demands and precious little diplomacy, treated like a common trader and told to return when he could behave properly. For Europe, it is the beginning of a history. Here you see Vasco da Gama admiring a much later painting. For Europe, a beginning. For the Maritime Silk Road trading system, an end. The Portuguese returned in September 1500 with proper credentials. They were recognized as new traders, but that was not their ambition. Not to join trade, but to dominate it, to monopolize it. Following the riot, after they had attacked another Islamic ship in port, they fled, leaving scores of dead behind them, and shelled the port. But all too soon they were back with larger fleets, more disruptions, more bombardments, until in 1509 they finally succeeded in destroying the combined Calicut and Ottoman fleets. Nothing more stood in their way. You may be excused for never having heard of Okinoshima. It is a small island off the coast of Japan with 1 inhabitant, a single Shinto priest guarding its secrets, and secrets it has. Not 1 leaf, not 1 stone should leave its shores. For us, it is a chance to learn about some immaterial cultural heritage, about the changing scale of rituals, the changing nature of ritual gifts, and the changing status of 3 local gods, all frozen in time for about 1,000 years. We explore the culture of the Philippines as part of a shipwreck exhibition, with the help of the Spanish invaders and, ironically, with the local authorities celebrating the 500th anniversary of those events. The Vietnamese Cham state reached its apotheosis in the 10th century, after which it faced continuous pressure from the Viet armies from the north. Its capital eventually fell in 1470 CE. Much of what remains are impressive stone statuary, which we are proud to display in a new exhibition site. We use the same space for our next exhibition, dedicated to the Majapahit Empire that ruled Java and much of Southeast Asia in the 13th and 15th centuries. In this museum, we focus on using the sandstone wall friezes to recreate the landscape in and around the former capital of Traulan. We make 2 visits to present-day Thailand, separated by several centuries due to the happenstance of selecting 2 wrecks from the area. The first visit is to Ayutthaya, a Buddhist kingdom that ruled from the mid-15th century onwards. And we return some 500 years earlier to admire the Dvaravati stone carved wheels of law that predated the physical portrayal of Buddha himself. From Thailand, we travel to Sri Lanka and the Anuradhapura kingdom that flourished from the 6th to the 10th century. In these years, Sri Lanka sat literally on the trading crossroads of the Indian Ocean and was a major departure point for hundreds of Buddhist monks travelling to Southeast Asia and China. From Sri Lanka, we travel to 2 sites in present-day Iran. We have already visited Calicut. Saraf is an archaeological site with remains from the mid-8th to the 10th centuries. It has delivered many interesting insights, including water provision in the desert environment, the different importance of regional as opposed to long-distance trade, and the influence of climate change on sea levels, and how even the smallest piece of glass or porcelain can unlock secrets to trading routes. Finally, Hormuz. Then, as now, a vital choke point en route to the Persian Gulf, and for that very reason, the Portuguese seized the port in 1507, all part of the all-conquering story of the discoveries, discovering what the local populations had known for centuries. And now onto the shipwrecks. For our shipwrecks, we have built a new underwater exhibition site, comprising of 3 rooms in each. We have 7 shipwreck exhibitions, chosen not so much for their location, as for the story they tell. Let's start with the Mongol invasion of Japan, in which Japan was saved by the divine wind, or kamikaze. We start by seeing the invasion through the eyes of a samurai, who complained that his deeds of valor had been unfairly overlooked, and employed a war artist to emphasize the point. We then turn to the revival of woodprint kamikaze art in the mid-19th century. In the final room, we work with local authorities to show the insights revealed by underwater archaeologists on what actually occurred all these centuries ago. The Shannan wreck, half a century later, shows a trade between China and Japan, but in this case, we know the exact loading date and the customer. The Nanhai 1, wrecked off the coast of China, was carrying Chinese goods to Southeast Asia, the largest quantity ever recovered. But what is truly remarkable is that not only was the cargo recovered almost intact, but the entire ship was lifted out of the water for excavation to continue on land. The 15th century Pandanan wreck, found off the coast of the Philippines, was selected because it was loaded mainly with champa ceramics from Vietnam and some interesting glass beads. For the same reason, the Sattahip Koh Kram shipwreck was selected because it was loaded mostly with Thai and some Vietnamese ceramics. We chose the 6th wreck, Phanom Sarin, because it was one of the oldest ever recorded from the 8th century, because it was found on land, and because it offered us a wreck but no cargo. However, it tells a story of its grounding and the efforts of the crew to refloat it, and offers tantalizing evidence on the basis of vegetative evidence, usually lost at sea. The choice of the 7th wreck was the most difficult. Maritime museums discourage the exhibition of cargoes and treasures recovered from commercially salvaged or treasure-hunted wrecks. In our museum of the 10th century Cirebon wreck, discovered off the coast of Java, we discuss the rights and wrongs of commercial salvage and, through the eyes of a government-appointed observer, unfortunately who was not allowed to observe much, we examine how to wreck a shipwreck. The opening of the Maritime Silk Road has taken us, quite literally, into new waters, new forces of knowledge, new nuclei of beliefs, new forms of transport and new compositions of cargoes, and new knowledge of the long-distance maritime routes before the arrival of the Europeans. Over the coming months, we will extend the coverage through time and space and look for new cooperations with academics and museum conservators alike. We hope that you will join us on this journey.